You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back, kicking off yet another week here on the network. Time for your bi-weekly source for all things options related. Yep, time for the old OB. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Thanking everyone who's been checking out the latest addition to the network, the Hot Options Report, coming to you every day after the bell, breaking down all of the hot options that are dominating the tape that day. What's making into the top 10? What is going on in the world of VIX or SPY or Qs or anything else out there? Got to check out the Hot Options Report. Thanks to all of you who have been doing so. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, make sure you're heading over to the Pro. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Of course, great Pro Q&As, options oddities, giveaways coming up, man. Already coming up on the July Pro Trading Crate. Get your name in the hat soon if you want to have a chance to win that. And trust me, you do. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go as we learn who's joining us on the Monday edition of the Option Block. It is the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, who I'm pleased to say, nice guy that I am, I was in his neck of the woods this weekend, and I offered him a delicious Skippy's Gyros and lemonade, as you do when you're in someone else's hometown. You say, hey, you know what? Skippy's Gyros on me, but he could not make it, alas. So maybe next time I will treat Uncle Mike to a tasty gyros, and even though he should really be treating me for all of the fun trivia I've sent his way over the years, if nothing else, as well as the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. All right, the teams are assembled. The game is afoot. Let us commence our broadcast week the way we like to do with our 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right, the card has been drawn. It is being held in my hot little hands here. I will give him the opportunity to choose, even though I don't know why. I know what he's going to choose. Nonetheless, Uncle Mike, as our resident loser, what color are you going with this week?
Hey, this resident loser has the belt around his waist, just so you know. We're going sports and leisure.
All right, little old SNL for the point this week, listeners. This certainly falls into the leisure category, I would consider.
Oh, good.
How many points are there in a perfect cribbage hand?
Wow. Never played cribbage. Never played cribbage. I'll guess 100.
I buzzed, thank you.
Oh, you did? I didn't even see it. Okay, Uncle Mike.
All right, buzz.
All right, so you get an easier. I will give you points as a loser. I will say 100 is not correct. So you get to go.
Ooh. So are we going by the closest then, or do we have to get an exact match?
Within reason. Otherwise, maybe we'll do a different question on the card for like half a point or something.
I'll go with 99 then. We're going by what's closer.
No, actually, it's 29. So I don't think I can give anyone a point for that one. What a random
But I was
number.
closer.
29 points? What a random number. All right. But Uncle Mike, a nice guy that I am, will go for half a point. I'll let you choose the next color as well. What other color you want? Same card.
I don't even know what colors there are. I'll go with geography.
Okay, that would be blue. What country has the world's highest population density?
I buzzed.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, China.
A good guess. Not correct. Mr. Rock Lobster, can you steal?
What country has the world's highest population density?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Japan.
That's a good guess as well. I was kind of leaning in that direction myself, just given the density of Tokyo. Tokyo's certainly dense. The rest of the country, I don't know. But you know what? Neither of those. It is Monaco.
Monaco.
I already wrote in no points once I saw the answer. I was like, there's no one's getting Monaco.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
I will say there are some curveballs on these 80s cards. Monaco.
That zero taxation thing is big.
You might as well say Luxembourg at that point. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah,
is Monaco really a country? Do we really count that as population density? I mean, Vatican City at that point could be the densest. I mean, what the hell? What do we do? But nonetheless, that is the game you folks have chosen with these 80s cards. I would have made it like a real country. I would have said something like Japan or something. But nonetheless, no points for anyone this week. Uncle Mike remains the biggest loser as we keep on rolling right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
Did you have those playing at home, listeners? 29 points for Cribbage. What an odd point total. And Monaco for the highest pop. Remember, these questions were written sometime in or around the early to mid 80s. So those answers could have changed. Maybe there's updated Cribbage rules. I don't know. I'm just saying. From the 80s perspective, those are the correct answers. What is the correct answer out there in the market? Well, it's another one of those days where if you don't really like what's going on, just wait a little bit because we're kind of vacillating out there today. Someone in our chat actually knew Monaco. Wow. I might have to call BS on that. I don't know. But I think they said it before I called it. So, 14 seconds ago. So they did not. But hey, maybe. Who am I to judge the folks in our chat? But that just says, what a random bit of trivia. That's what makes it good. All right, out there in the market today, what do we got lighting it up? Again, it's kind of a mixed day. The market tries to go green, tries to give Uncle Mike the chance to say his favorite words. And then, of course, we flip a little bit red. S&P, again, fractionally red on the day now. We're really unched. The Dow off about 0.1%. NASDAQ up about 0.25%. And our old pal, VIX Cash, hanging out pretty much at unched at 15.25. So not a heck of a lot going on that's different today than there was on the show on Thursday, except for the fact that we are now joined by the Rock Lobster, who you knew the news of the passing of the only Hulk Hogan was a big deal. And even the Rock Lobster heard about it. That's pretty much the only wrestler he knows. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, I guess we couldn't do any more wrestling trivia anyway because the one person you know is now dead, sir.
I feel like he went kind of young. He looked kind of young. He didn't look like he changed his age, and all of a sudden
he's looked the same for the last 40 years. Yeah, he was actually 71, which is still that's like 200 in wrestling.
That's old for wrestling.
Yeah, in wrestling years, that's like 200.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I guess they don't. They kind of live like a fast life, you know.
They really do.
They're like they live high.
The steroids, the head trauma, the drugs, it doesn't lead to longevity usually.
Yes, it does. The spotlight in wrestling does not lead to longevity. But yeah, I was sad to see the Hulkster go. I felt your pain. Put it that way. I go, oh wow, you know what? Those guys are going to be bummed that the Hulk's gone.
End of an era. He was the wrestler. Still is the wrestler for a lot of people out there. You ask my parents to name a pro wrestler, they're naming Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Everybody's name, which is amazing. That kind of penetration, you know. But yeah, very, very, very sad that the Hulkster's gone. As far as the market goes, I think I think we have some trade deals. We have more trade deals. And it looks like, once again, the only thing really stopping the U.S. is Congress because they can't stop spending. But it looks like the trade deals are going to bring more revenue in, and and we are at, I think, I feel like I'm blinking, and we're at 6,000 SPX, and now we're 6,400. And now I just saw Morgan Stanley, I believe, went to 7,100. Could the SPX go to S&P 500? So, and I think, the moral of the story is, it doesn't really matter what administration we have. Generally, stocks go up, but for a while, administrations can screw up. And I mean, everyone has their own, time into the sand, the quicksand, I guess. And then they change whatever policy they're doing, and then the market goes back up because they realize the good thing about the U.S. is if the policy sucks, the market goes down. And it's like, it's always the barometer. It's pretty simple, it's not that hard. They're like, hey, what you're doing is not working. So anyway, but we have big tech earnings this week. AMD is flying, and I think still this AI runway. And I was surprised that Google, I thought there would be more upside for Google. They're spending $85 billion on tech for AI, which is a pretty big number. So all of these things are positive, bullish, good for the economy. And we have a lot of big tech earnings this week. And I think that's, I know it's not the Friday show, but, you have an ultra steep VIX curve. Vol is, when the curve is that steep, generally volatility is very low in the short term, and the market's pricing it higher in the back. And it's not going away because I think we have to get through this Fed thing. This week we have FOMC coming out. If they're going to cut, I doubt that they are. And then you have wherever we are on August 1 and what tariffs get laid out. But even then, I think there will be some kind of press on the date or whatever, because that seems to be the pattern. But that could change. But at least for right now, realized vol is 5%, 6% in the S&P 500. That's not a scary bear market. You could keep trying to pick the top or whatever, but it's a hard thing to do when volatility is at 5%, picking the top. So it just seems like things are, okay and rolling. If we could get spending under control, I think inflation would start to drift lower and rates would go lower. And we have 535 people that are incapable of doing that. So anyway, that's where we are, and we're still rolling. But I'm surprised, our little rally really isn't still steaming along. But you have to say it's getting a little long in the tooth now, up almost 400, 500 unanswered points here in the last month, SPX.
Yeah, it is interesting. We rallied towards the end of last week on the news of maybe a bit of a détente with Japan, get a little bit of news of maybe détente with Europe over the weekend, and you're right, not really exploding out of the gate here. Maybe the market realizes we've already priced in a lot of rally. Maybe we don't have much more left. And maybe Uncle Mike's buddies are just exhausted. He is in the mobile office, so maybe he's not there to coordinate the additional buying that he usually does on a Monday morning. Either way, yeah, not quite as joyous, not quite as celebratory in the market out there today. Dare I say it, some of the major indices are actually red. Uncle Mike, how could you allow such a thing to happen? Explain yourself, sir. And also, why didn't you want a delicious Skippy's Gyro this weekend? It was quite good.
Trust me, next time you're in town, we'll grab some Skippies or something that's actually better than Skippies, which are a lot of things around here.
There is actually fine dining in St. Charles?
Oh, the best of the best.
All I know about the Costco dogs and the Skippies across the street from the fairgrounds. That's about all I know.
What else do you need? but there's plenty of good stuff. But anyway, getting to the markets, what's happening. Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit long on the tooth with this rally. This is the year of the collar, in my opinion. It's also the year of the hedged equity, in my opinion. I think that if you're concerned that the markets are getting a little bit high and you're concerned that we were at 4,800 in April and we're at 6,400 right now, we're just under it. That's a long way. And yes, I know that a lot of this is the Trump tariff effect in a lot of ways, the choppiness. But when we get that much movement, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be protected. It does kind of help you rest a little bit easier. At least it does, in my opinion. And it's not like puts are overly expensive right now. They're not overly cheap. We're not a 9 VIX by any means, but it might not be a bad idea to consider something. But if you already have your protection in place, if your risk is managed in other ways, by no means am I saying hedge the entire portfolio, just something to take a look at. In terms of some things that are happening, I agree with Andrew. I think we're going to have the market is kind of holding off for FOMC, waiting to see what some earnings announcements are. We're kind of in a wait and see mode, at least for today. I think the market wants to be able to react to something in a good way or a bad way. And with the positive momentum with which we have had, I'm not necessarily seeing us going to 6,600 in 2 weeks, but quite honestly, I hope I'm wrong. That would be nice. You never know. So we have what we have. And I think just with where we are right now in the marketplace, we just need to continue to be, as I like to say, long-term bullish and short-term cautious.
Long-term bullish, short-term cautious, and always snacking on delicious Skippy Zeros and lemonade. Is the market snacking on a lot of delicious vol and just volume out there today, listeners? The answer is no. Not at all. It's pretty quiet. That said, not quite as bad as it was on Friday when I didn't think we were going to get to 200,000 contracts for the day. We are north of that right now, about 250,000 contracts, a little bit north of that, 256 on the tape right now. Back below 700K. I did say this last week on the show. I said we're going to dip below 700K in the ADV, if ever so slightly. 699 right now. Again, we are heading into the summer doldrum period out there, so not usually a banger period. What is the hot option, such as it is out there in VIX land right now? The answer is the AUG 18 put, going up about 20,000 times out there today, 21,000 to be precise. In fact, we have a little flash poll going up here right now, trading for $1.69, 20,000 times exactly. You a buyer or a seller at that price? 18 puts a little bit meatier than we normally talk. We normally talk 17, maybe 16. So 18, you know it's going to be pricey. In this case, it's $1.70. You like that, or is that a little bit too much outlay for downside? You like to go maybe more of the 17 or even 16, or even in these days, maybe 15 half or 15 route. I'm curious. Hit us up. Let us know. That flash poll is live right now. That'll be live throughout the day. So you folks listening on the podcast can play too. We'll check back in on it a little bit later in the show, see what you folks think, because it just went live seconds ago. Let's go out to SPY. Is SPY having a banger? The answer is no. 4.15 million contracts out there for SPY today, listeners. So, again, kind of about in line what we expect. The ADV, 7.8 million out there in SPY. So, SPY, after having some banger days last week, back below 8 million on the ADV front. Let's go out to the S. Is the S having a banger day? The S is decent, 2.1 million. Again, it's not like completely asleep at the wheel the way VIX was on Friday. It's decent, 2.1 million going up out there in the S. The ADV, 3.6 million contracts out there. Going on to the small caps. Are they asleep at the wheel? The answer is kind of. 576,000 contracts on the tape for IWM today. So obviously we've seen much more. 750, 800, a million contracts this time of the show. So 576 is pretty light. The ADV is 1.35 million. So maybe they'll hit that today. Doesn't seem like it unless they get a nice little lift second half of the session. And rounding us out, the Qs. The Qs and the S kind of looking eerily similar right now. Both of them have about exactly the same ADV, right around 3.6 million contracts a day for each. And both of them right now at exactly 2.1 million. So the Qs and the S kind of moving in lockstep, at least from a volume perspective, not from an underlying perspective, but from a volume perspective right now. Again, 2.1 million contracts out there in the Qs. You know what? Since we're playing the analyze game, let's look really quickly. Let's do our little bit of analysis out here in the Qs. How's the Q shaping up from a top 20 most active? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I see a lot. 5. I'm actually in August. 6. 6 contracts in the top 20 of the Qs. Not expiring today. How dare they? Don't they know these products are all 0 day all the time now? Let's go out to the S and let's run the same analysis. Let's see. The S is 20 for 20. All 0 day all the time, at least as of right now. That might obviously change as the day has gone on, but right now, heading in about halfway into the session. So that shows you a stark difference. The S has been fully taken over by the 0 DTE crowd. The Qs, still some notes of resistance, some rays of rebellion out there. Some people actually trade August contracts in the top 20. How dare they? Don't they know? So there you go. Not entirely the same products, but volume-wise, shaping up to be fairly similar. Speaking of how things are shaping up, is it shaping up to be a banger day out there in the top 10 most actives for the equity options? You know, the answer is it is respectable. It is respectable. Remember, our bar for respectability is 250,000, so 250,000 contracts to break into the top 10. You'd be forgiven for heading into August to think, you know, maybe we don't even hit that. This is the time of year, and normally we're hanging out $160, $180, looking for something to talk about on the show. So the fact that we're north of 250,000, in fact, 306,000 contracts, that's nothing to sneeze at. We have a little bit of help coming from earnings season right now. Either way, 306,000 contracts. That gets us to our old pal, the monster out there, aka MicroStrategy. This one has been a frequent offender in the top 10 of late listeners. If you've been listening to our hot options report, you know that the monster has been in there almost, I think, pretty much every day. Last week, certainly. Maybe not the week before, because the week before was completely upended by the Lucids and the Opens of the world, and even GameStop. It was meme 5.0. I don't know what number we're on anymore, 7.0. But it was quite the meme stock takeover. Is it still that today? We'll find out. But number 10 is the monster, listeners. Is it looking more monstrous today? Up about a dime, right around 406 today. So for the monster, kind of quiet. Actually, though, intraday they had a lot more range. They started off the day at 417 before falling all the way to 404.5. Now hanging out a little bit north of 406. So it has been a wild day intraday, even if right now they're kind of hanging out, kind of close to unched. The monster, number 10. 306,000 contracts. Number 9, all the way down at number 9. Is going to get kicked from the top 10 pretty soon. I guess we'll find out. It's our old pal Open. The Rock Lobster's beloved Open. He and I used to mock this on Options Oddities well over a year ago when we were talking about it there. Saying, what the hell is this Open Door? What is this? It seems like they can't make any money. It seems like a dumpster fire. And lo and behold, they become the name to seize, to capture the imaginations of all the meme kids out there. Open Door today, 240 off 14 cents. Putting up 334,000 contracts. That's light paper for Open this time of day. Obviously, we've seen it top the list, which is just wild. If you had told me when we were talking about Open on Oddities a year and change ago that they would come in and not just debut in the top 10, but go all the way to the top of the list pretty much within a session or two of breaking in, I would have said, you're a crazy person, but that's where we are right now. Open, number 9, 334. Number 8, our old pal, Alphabet, Class A. So we're back to the normal universe where we're not talking about Class C anymore. At least I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see Class C. Of course, on Alphabet earnings day, both of them managed to sneak in there, if you heard the hot options report. But back to only Class A, right around 192, off about $1.25 today for the Googs. Number 8, 340 on the tape for Goog L. No Goog C today. I apologize to all you Class C fans. Number 7, the Amazonians, 352 on the tape. Now, 352 is normally our barometer for when we're getting a little bit spicy, when that's what it should cost you to break into the top 10 on a more spicy, a more active day. Not quite there today, all the way up at number 7 to hit that. That's the Amazonians. About 233, up about $1.50 today. Good for, again, 350,000 contracts on the tape. Number 6, my old stomping grounds, making it into the top 10 a lot of late. This is an interesting name. You know, they're hot again. They're cold again. They're very much cold again these days, even if they are managing to try to sputter back to life today. They've had a range of 21.29 to the upside and fallen down 20.69 to to the downside, hanging out right around 2070 right now, pretty much unched. Intel putting up 425,000 contracts and the number 6 spot. They keep trying to break back into that tech zeitgeist. They keep trying to be what they were back when I was out trading them in the dot-com boom era, and Microsoft and Intel were it. Those were kind of the big dogs, and that's where everyone keyed off of. I'll still never forget the day Intel pre-announced bad earnings. In the middle, that'd be like NVIDIA doing that right now when they are driving the market. It was wild. It was wild. I never in my life came to a trading pit and had lines of people around it, other traders who didn't have anything to do that morning, the quiet day, just to watch. They just wanted to watch the chaos unfold. Brokers lined up 10 deep, waiting for the bell to ring. That's when you knew it was going to be a banger. It was like, oh man, I'm in for something today. So that was good times out there. It's a good times for Intel today. Like we said, number 6 on the tape, not lighting the world on fire, but managing to stay in the top 10 out there. Listen, number 6, 425 on the tape. Number 5, Palantir, 156 and a quarter, off about 260 or about 1.6%. Good for number 5, 472 on the tape. Number 4, SMCI, 58 and a half, up $4 today. SMCI feeling its oats, up nearly 7.5%. I'm guessing some analyst loves it. More buyers than sellers. I don't see, what is it, earnings popping up? I don't see what's driving a good old SMCI. So let's just go with the old Uncle Mike and his cabal like it. More buyers than sellers. Earnings are on the 5th after the close. So it is not earnings. It's just more buyers than sellers. Number 4, SMCI listeners, 607,000 contracts on the tape. Number 3, back to chips. It's AMDA. Good old AMD, 172 and a half, up 610 or 3.6%. So a nice day for good old AMDA. Chips kind of lining up the top spots today, but maybe not all of them. We'll see in a second. AMDA, number 3, not nearly 1 million contracts for AMD. This is a spicy one for them. 958,000 contracts. Instinct MI 350 AI price increases. Okay, there we go. That's what it is. Chip business is improving, says analyst. So there you go. Some analyst love as well. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Uncle Mike and his cabal buying more of it. Up nearly 4% today. AMD. Number 3, and then out to number 2. Yes, I said number 2. The chip's looking hot, but can't take the number 1 spot. But they're taking 2 and 3. So you add them together, they are the big dogs in the market today. Number 2, NVIDIA. Kind of sleepy. 1.25 million. It's only up, I say only in air quotes, up about $1.80, trading 175 in the third, up about exactly 1% today. Not enough to gin up some paper, though. NVIDIA, 1.25 million contracts out. That means the big dog, you know what it is. You know it. You love it. Maybe you hate it. Look, this is interesting because their earnings report from Tesla was just a dumpster fire. The worst, was it the worst revenue miss in a decade? One of those, something worse in a decade, whatever it was. But it was bad. Yet they do the old bait and switch. At the end of the day, if you're investing in Musk, you're investing in hype kind of anyway, so you're buying the hype. And they got down, they sold off to about 300, about the par strike, and they've been rallying kind of ever since. Maybe on the backs of robotaxis, maybe on the backs of AI. It ain't the cars they're selling, that's for sure, because those are not being sold. So it's definitely the hopes for the future. Trading 328.60 today, up about 12.60 or nearly 4%. So rallying today. Deal looks like with Samsung and Tesla. So there we go. So getting more chips for the cars they can't sell. There you go. That's great. Obviously going to power their AI and other things as well, but still kind of funny. I think I'm joking, listeners. Our studio is almost literally across the street from a giant Tesla service / kind of sales area. It's huge. And it is just overflowing with cars that have been sitting there. If they just do not move. Cybertrucks, you name it. They're all the same cars, all sitting there. So, unless there's a lot of cars in for service, which could possibly be. But those same Cybertrucks, those same Model S's and Model 3s and everything else have been sitting there for the better part of a year and not moving. So anecdotally, looking across the street, we could easily see Teslas are not lighting up the sales charts. Nonetheless, rallying today, nearly 330, 1.63 million contracts on the tape. Interesting. By the way, have you seen these? We see a lot of these floating around Chicago, listeners. The Teslas going by with the stickers with Elon with a line through it. They're like, hey, I like Tesla. I bought a Tesla, but leave me alone. I don't agree with Elon kind of thing. That kind of cracks me up. Like, that's obviously people afraid of getting their cars keyed out there. Tesla, all of a sudden, a very controversial car to own, which is wild. Is earnings season looking wild right now? You know, it's another hot week. So if you want to just forget about all this macro madness, you want to forget about the Fed this week, and you want to just zoom in on some actual concrete numbers, then you got some for you, including today, Waste Management, everybody's favorite. Tomorrow, a usual top tenner. It probably will be after the numbers pop off tomorrow, so we'll stay tuned to the hot options report to see. SoFi tomorrow, our old pals formerly across the street, now I think they're in Virginia, Boeing, Visa, Starbucks, EA, our old pal Mara popping off tomorrow as well. That should be a banger. Wednesday, the M's are coming out in force, Meta and Microsoft, as well as good old Robinhood and Qualcomm and the dumpster fire known as Ford. Thursday, if you like your A tech names, we got you covered, Apple and Amazon. Throw a little Coinbase in there as well as some Roku. Anybody still using Rokus? I guess we'll find out. And MasterCard Friday, ExxonMobil, and Chevron. And if you want some of the hottest earnings move and earnings reports, we got them all for you, freshly updated on the website right now, listeners, theoptionsinsider.com. Be there or be square, listeners. Let's go out to our pals formerly across the street, Boeing. Man, they've had, let's just say, some issues over the last couple of years. They're 29th before the bell. 233 even is where they were trading. Remember, all these numbers are as of the time we generated the report. So this is the report right now. 233 even. They were pricing in, listeners, a little over $10, about $10.15. The past they've moved $7.85. So they're pricing in a fair amount extra juice. Then again, Boeing does seem to surprise with these bursts of volatility. So maybe not the worst thing to add a little bit extra juice to Boeing. Are they going to crash another plane between now and then? Hopefully not, but you never know with Boeing. They surprise in the worst of ways all the time. SoFi, 29th before the bell, 21.20 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $1.82. In the past, they've moved $2.27. So about 45 cents off the top from an earnings perspective. That's interesting. You think cheaper juice is the way to go in SoFi? If you don't, maybe you think that's a steal. Either way, that's what they're pricing in right now, straddle-wise. Let's go out to EA. Let's go out to gaming. 29th after the bell, 151.70. They're pricing in $7.82. My goodness. In the past, they've moved $5.27. What are they pricing in? A Microsoft buyout? I don't think Microsoft has the cash to do that again. No, I think the Justice Department will let them buy EA. So, wow, they're pricing in something out there. $7.82, roughly $2.60, $2.55 more than they've moved in the past. That is a fair amount of extra juice. Out to Mara, 29th after the bell. This one's got to be spicy, right? 17.25 is what they were trading at. They're pricing in $1.39. In the past, they moved to $1.53. $1.39, just anecdotally watching Mara for a long time, and now for the last couple of weeks, that seems somewhat cheap. I need to go look at that for myself, listeners. Starbucks, 29th after the bell, 94.40 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $5.95. In the past, they moved $5.55. All this ever escalating costs of coffee. Check out our futures rundown show if you want to hear that for yourselves. That's getting kind of problematic for them. Ford, we'll wrap it up with Ford. I'll tell you what. We got all the big ones, so let's do really quickly here. We'll do 4 more. It's shotgun style. Ford, 30th after the bell, 11.5 is where they were trading. They're pricing in 70 cents. In the past, they've moved about 70 cents, a.k.a. a dumpster fire. All right, Hood, 30th after the bell. 105 is where they were trading. They're pricing in $9.50. They've moved about 9 1/3, so surprisingly not extra juice in Hood given how much they've moved just over the last quarter. You think they might price in a little bit extra. But apparently not. So maybe you think that's a screaming deal. Maybe not. I don't know. Meta, 30th after the bell, 712.70. They're pricing in, $40.50. In the past, they've moved $71.70. I need to go check in on that. Maybe something, because this is a rolling 3-year, 12-quarter average, listener. So maybe something fell off that was extremely wild or something was added in. Either way, maybe that's changing that frame of reference, because otherwise that seems like a screaming deal on Meta straddles. I'll have to go look and see. And then Microsoft bringing up the rear, 513.75. They were pricing in exactly $20. Easy for me to say, exactly $20. In the past, they've moved 23 1/3. So wow, not a lot of, no extra juice. A discount is Microsoft and Meta both pricing in cheaper straddles. That is kind of wild to me. Is that a good do? I guess we'll find out. The season right now, how is it stacking up? Again, listeners, there is so much data. You should be checking it out because there is a ton. I could spend the rest of the shows looking at all this. The season right now hanging out 138%, and our long-term average 119%. You check it all out for yourselves. You know where to go. Meanwhile, we got to go right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners. Let's kick it off with the Odd Block. Let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's bring up a Rock Lobster special, a Rock Lobster favorite, just for old time's sake, shall we? Mr. Rock Lobster, I know you get a smile on your face when I mention everyone's favorite, certainly your favorite, a.k.a. Itau Unibanco Holding SA. This is an ADR, known and beloved around the globe as iTub, your favorite, Mr. Rock Lobster.
The iTub of iTubs, the bank that can do it.
Everybody, it's just fun to say iTub. iTub hanging out right now, listeners. $6.13, off about a quarter, nearly 4% today. On the year, it's kind of been a topsy-turvy year. They were $5.50 a year ago, though, so they're up a little over 50 cents, or about 10% on the year. They rallied them in August up to about $6.25, right about where they are right now, a little bit north of it. Then they sold them off in January to $4.50. That was probably pretty much, I should say. That was really the low for the year. The low was $4.42. And then they rallied all the way up in May to $6.95, hit it again right around July 3rd, and then kind of fell out of bed back to where they are right now, $6.13. So been an interesting year, some up, some down, and kind of all around. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if this initial print is to be believed, maybe some folks are not feeling the future is bright here in the tub, a.k.a. iTub. Somebody came in this morning, Mr. Rock Lobster, and said, AUG 6 puts, how are they? They got no bid at 15 cents, which is quite the market. The stock was $6.17. There were no bid really on the AUG 6. I think they were probably nickel bid. But they gave them no bid because they're a bunch of jerks. And they said, I will pay 15 cents 6,000 times. Good, sir. That's a 42 vol. If you're wondering, it looks like they really liked these puts today because they've traded 1,100 more, then 1,100 more, then 1,000 more, then 1,000 more, and 1,000. They kept going. It's like they have done a total of nearly 14,000 on the day. I'm just trying to find the first print so I could see what they were up to. They were no bid at 15 pretty much all of the time. So they've been buying these straight up. There has been nothing else going on out here. So Mr. Rock Lobster, there are earnings, by the way, on August 5th, which I think you probably could have guessed by just looking at all this August paper out here. Mr. Rock Lobster, looks like someone thinks the tub might be going down the drain for earnings. What do you think, sir?
It does appear that way. They paid 20 and 15 for them. Now they're 10-20. It feels like a little bit of a cage match on them. But the rest of the world is not rushing in for the line in the sand put. I mean, the reality is, you know, you sell a put that's 13 cents out of the money for 15 cents. You're looking for trouble back in the old days, as I would say. So, but yeah, it's kind of surprising because normally the paper used to be more kind of bullish in here, trying to buy those junk calls and looking for greatness. However, you know, but the stock has kind of made a run from $5 to $6 this year. So, I mean, it's definitely had its time in the sun. It's also, I believe, a big part of EWZ, which is the Brazilian ETF. That hasn't gone really anywhere in a couple years. Actually down over the last couple years. It does pay a decent dividend, but I would say here, that ETF right now is paying 70. Wow, like a 6-7% dividend. But you do have the currency risk and all the rest of it. Anyway, I digress. An interesting purchase And I was just looking at EWZ if there was anything that was corresponding. There is some paper going up on the August 01 26.5 and 26 puts in EWZ, which might be a little bit of an offsetting trade to ITUP, just in case, But yeah, they look like they're looking for some downside. So yeah, I believe that stock is part of that ETF as well. It's one of the big banks.
It's hard to get excited lifting the offer on $6 puts, because you're like, how much can you make? But on the flip side, if ITUB really screws the pooch, sir, they circle that drain, then those puts could be looking pretty juicy.
Yeah, 550, you're all of a sudden got a double.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're looking pretty sweet. You don't have to wait too long, just wait till the 5th. So I guess if you want to roll the bones on 15 cents seems like the magical price. We've been talking about a lot of things trading for 15 cents on oddities of late, which you can check out, of course, on the pro listeners. Then I guess you can add these to the list of 15-cent bonanzas, Mr. Rock Lobster. As we keep growing, it's kind of a quiet day out there. I want to pay off some paper. I'm going to save these Flowmaster trades for a little bit. So instead, we're going to go back all the way to near the beginning of the year, listeners, to the January 23rd show. We're going to talk about everyone's favorite, the Rock Lobster's favorite, Mirion Technologies, ticker symbol MIR, M-I-R. I'm not going to tell you where they're trading. Well, I could, but actually maybe I will, because it might confuse you and make you think the days worked out. Trading $22.50. So it's been a banger year for them, up 1180, or about 110% on the year. So a good run for Mirion Technologies. When we talked about the stock back on January 23rd, the stock was a little bit shy of $18, $17.97. And somebody was feeling it. There were earnings coming up before Valentine's Day, February 11th. Somebody said, Feb 20s, how are they? They got 45 at 65. They said, why wouldn't I pay 65 cents 3,836 times? The stock is on fire. They don't care that it's a 66 vol. They said these earnings are going to light the world on fire, listeners. And looking here at this chart, looks like the stock, he bought these on January 23rd. So he had a nice little run. The stock kept going, but never really quite got to where he needed it to go. And actually during February, heading right into expiration, I should say, is where we had kind of the first real downturn of the stock of this year. I started selling off down towards the 15 handle almost immediately after earnings. So I'm guessing the earnings are no bueno. The stock ended up closing, Mr. Rock Lobster, $15.82 on expiration, aka well below that 20 strike he needed it to get to. These were all still open. Like we said, they rolled these bones on earnings, and they never really had a chance to get out of them. They dropped about $250,000 on this roll of the dice on Mirion Technologies. So Mr. Rock Lobster, I think our listeners want to know, why did you buy these calls?
Well, you know what? I was feeling it. I was like, I felt like these are calls that I need to own. And MIR. Wow, the Flowmaster had some good stuff. I mean,
he did.
The problem is, sadly, on a look back, that they did lose all their money, which happens. I tell my students, you buy calls, the risk you take is the premium when you buy calls or puts. That's it, but it still matters, especially when you drop a girlfriend's Ferrari on it, by the way.
Yeah, that's $250,000. That'll leave a mark. You know what always leaves a mark on your brain, listeners? It's the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the Strategy Block.
All right, Uncle Mike, the floor is yours. The folks want to know all about your top 10 strategies for cribbage. Here we go.
Well, the only thing I know about cribbage is that in the show MASH, Major Winchester won a game of cribbage, and the guy he was playing with got mad at him, and that's what sent him to the MASH 407 Center. That's about all I know about cribbage, so I apologize for my lack of cribbage
knowledge. That's a deep pull, sir.
I just remember the name and the game, but that's about it. So for the strategy block today, I had something. I had a client reach out to me over the weekend, and their information may have been compromised. Now, it wasn't, so it's nothing bad happened, but they had a concern that their information may have been compromised. So, in other words, let's say that you have money at one brokerage house, another brokerage house, an insurance company, or whatever. If the bad guys get your information, the bad guys can do bad things. And so I just want to go through what we did today to help the client. There's never any guarantees, of course, but these are just some steps that you may want to consider taking. And I think this is a very viable thing for the strategy block, because if you don't have all your money gets stolen, then you're not going to have very good strategies anyway. And these are just some good things to think about. So client reaches out to me, information may be compromised. So one thing that we can do at Schwab, now every brokerage is going to be different, but vast majority of the money with which I manage is at Schwab. So what we did there is step one, you can do something called a verbal password. So let's say at this other place where the clients had some of their money, bad guys get their information. The bad guys can call Schwab and say, hey, I am this client. Here's all my social security number. Here's this, that, and the other. Send me money to here. And then they send the money to the bad guy's place, and then your money's gone. Well, one thing that we did, or the client did at Schwab, is that they can have something called a verbal password. So in other words, let's say that the bad guys have all their personal information. They call up Schwab. Schwab's going to say, oh, okay, that sounds like you, Mr. Client, but what's your verbal password? And if they don't know what the verbal password is, then they won't send out any money verbally. So that's one thing that you can do. Now, the next thing that we did was we don't know for sure that their information was compromised as of yet. So what we did is you can actually lock down your online access. So in other words, the client's actually not going to have access to their account for a few days. I will, but they won't. So that way, if the bad guys call and say, or the bad guys trying to log in, they won't be able to log in because it's just going to say access denied. Because of the fact that they blocked the online access. Now, different firms do different things. There's another firm I know that I work with. What we can do is we do something called red noting. So in other words, if anyone wants to move money away from this firm, any client tries to do it, I have to approve it first. So that way, it's something to where it's just another layer of protection for the client. Other firms, they annotate things, and they have extra security steps in place. Every place is different. And so if you're not a Schwab advisory client, it might be different from what I described for the Schwab advisory side. So maybe if you're just a Schwab retail client, you don't work with an advisor, which I understand most of our audience members don't. If that's the case, maybe they have something different. But what I would encourage you to do is research whatever your financial institution, whatever they have in place for extra security measures, because it's one of those things where if you don't expect to get into an accident that day, but you still wear a seatbelt when you drive a car anyway. And so by just having a plan for what to do in case your identity does get compromised, things like that can really help you. Once again, I know it's not necessarily an option strategy, but we talk about risk management all the time for the values of our accounts. This is arguably the most important risk management there is. I would encourage you to call your broker or call whatever financial institution you have to see what steps are in place for what you can do. And that is the strategy block for today.
An unfortunately necessary sign of our times, listeners, as we keep on rolling and go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode. And I remember I said I was going to tell you about the results, at least right now, how we're trending in our flash poll for those VIX AUG 18 puts trading 20,000 times for $1.69. You want to buy them or sell them? About almost 2/3 of you, almost 64% of you want to sell them, and almost 1/3 of you want to buy them out there. So interesting out there, maybe just a little bit too rich for your blood. I get it. It's a big outlay. We got to pop. There goes $1.70 you're never going to see again. So that could certainly be the case. That is interesting because last week our question of the week was, what's the biggest challenge facing your options trading right now? And 40.5% of you said you're having a hard time finding juice to sell. That does make sense. VIX has been a little bit lower. Obviously, we're heading into the quiet period of summer. Not a lot of juice to be squeezed out there. Too many things to trade was number 2, 37.8%. And then a tie for number 3, right around 11% each for the spreads are too wide and bad execution or bad fills. And our actual question of the week just went live right now. We put the finishing touches on it right as Uncle Mike was finishing up the strategy block, which is quite simple. Kind of a contrary one this week, which is always fun. We said we're heading into the dog days of summer. Not usually the time to buy straddles, but we're going to do it anyway. Gun to your head. You got to buy one of these. Which straddle would you rather buy right now? They're all August. So the Q's, the AUG straddle is about $15 right now. All at the money straddles. VIX is about $3. IBIT is $4.50 and GLD is $8.50. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week? B, which of these straddles would you rather buy for August expiration? Q's, VIX, IBIT, or GLD?
Well, that's a tough one. The VIX one's $3. Let's see. We're 15. Oh, that's buying the 15 straddle? Yeesh.
Yes.
That'd be a rough one.
That would be a rough one.
Don't want to do that. I think the best shot's probably the Q, but that would be my guess. What am I watching? Hey, Q earnings. Is Microsoft, are they all going to take off? Amazon, Apple, are they all going to take off? There's a shot. I think they're all pretty dreamily priced right now. Microsoft, a $500 stock. Like, I held this Microsoft position for, off and off trade a little bit, but I'm like, oh man, that's, in 2011, that stock was $19, if you can believe it. Paid a 25-cent per quarter dividend. Nobody wanted it. So just
then they had that lost decade. They didn't move for like a decade.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. That was right at the end of the lost decade. And I believe another year after that, year maybe 2, they Stephen Ballmer retired and they brought in Nadella, and he's nobody's going to complain about that guy's performance right now. Ballmer was too wedded to the old ways. So anyway, that's what I'm looking at. Earnings this week, Fed, and then August 1. Are we pushing the Chinese tariff date back? And that's my story right now.
Short answer, yes. You heard it here first. But Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on this week? And B, if you had to buy a straddle right now, Q's, VIX, IBIT, or gold, which way you doing?
I would actually buy the IBIT straddle. If I can if I had to pick a straddle of that.
What have you done with Uncle Mike?
Well, it's a straddle, so that means it can go down, right?
But Bitcoin really sucks. I didn't think you wanted anything to do with it.
Well, if it can go down, why wouldn't I? If I have a gun to my head, I'm certainly not going to buy a gold straddle. I'm certainly not going to buy the VIX straddle because Andrew would get mad at me. And then, the Qs, if I can't be totally bullish on the markets, it just messes with my head. So if I got to have bearish energy in something, let's do IBIT.
It is logical in an odd way for him, but totally logical for Tucson.
So, in terms of what I'm watching, seeing if we can, if we're bouncing off the 6,400 mark, or we are fighting through it. Technically, we did make new all-time highs today, but I can't say my thing today. Just not enough. I need more inspiration to bust out the whole Kool-Aid man thing. So seeing how that reacts with earnings, with everything that we have coming up, to see if that becomes a key number that we're going to either break through or bounce back from.
That music means the show is not going to bounce back. We are pretty much done. Right now, our audience can't make up their mind. They're pretty much evenly split across all 4 of these, but it just went live. Slight premium towards Uncle Mike favorite, IBIT. But we'll keep an eye on this as the week unfolds. And Mr. Rock Lobster, if they want to talk a little bit more options as the week unfolds, where should they go? What should they do?
Yeah, optionpit.com, 888-TRADE-01. Hey, I trade all the stuff that we trade, that we put up, portfolio, keep track records. The track records are great, unbelievable, and you won't even believe it if you want to learn how to trade options like this. So come to optionpit.com. Doing it 15 years now.
Get OP over there at optionpit.com. See, that's how you talk to the kids. You give them their lingo. We'll make you an OP options trader at OptionPit. There we go. See? Free advice, just for free. You're welcome. OptionPit.com, the place to go. And Mr. Uncle Mike, where should folks go if they want to learn how to lock down their online lives, sir?
Well, I mean, you're going to need to go to STC Wealth. I can't do it. stcharleswealth.com. If you're looking for an advisor that will help you get locked down, both from a security standpoint and from a risk management standpoint, I'll help you in any way that I can. stcharleswealth.com. Check me out.
stcharleswealth.com. The guy who never saw an IBIT straddle he didn't want to buy. Uncle Mike, stcharleswealth.com. The place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. I will be back in a little bit with our good crypto pal. He's having a good time. XRP was replaced Tether recently. There was a party, I'm sure, in the Ulivari household. We were here all about it. Coming up on the crypto rundown in a little bit. Then all of you folks will hear after that what the heck is dominating the options tape out there, because I will be back for the third part of our triple header later today with the Hot Options Report, breaking down all the hottest action in the world of options, listeners. Then we're back again throughout the rest of this week, listeners, with our usual array of content. Until we're back again next Thursday with the Flowmaster in hand for a little bit of the old OB. We'll see you then. And stay safe out there.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.